Barack and Michelle Obama may seem like they have a fairy tale marriage, but they've also had their fair share of struggles. From learning to listen to each other to seeking professional help, here's how the Obamas endured the hard times and still managed to thrive. Barack and Michelle Obama had been married for over 3 decades, but as the former First Lady told Stephen Colbert in 2018, there was a time when she wasn't sure they'd ever say I do.
We would have these deep discussions about whether marriage was really necessary, if two people really loved each other, and I would be irritated.
As Michelle further explained in her 2018 memoir, Becoming, she thought it was important to tie the knot, while Barack wasn't so sure. They would frequently debate the topic, including one fateful night when they were celebrating Barack finishing his bar exam. They were having dinner at one of their favorite restaurants when Barack again brought up the idea of marriage, saying that he didn't see the point. Michelle wrote, "It was like pushing a button in me, the kind of big, blinking red button you might find in some sort of nuclear facility surrounded by warning signs and evacuation maps." Soon they were arguing about the pros and cons for the umpteenth time. Michelle recalled asking her then-boyfriend, "Why wouldn't we formalize that commitment? What part of your dignity would be sacrificed by that?" To her surprise, a waiter suddenly appeared with a covered dessert plate. Under the lid was a velvet box with a diamond engagement ring. Michelle wrote, "He'd baited me. It had all been a ruse." Barack Obama made history in 2008 as the first African American to be elected president. And all throughout his campaign, Michelle was proudly by his side. In the 8 years that followed, she also became a regular fixture in media and politics and always supported her husband. However, as she told the New York Times in 2009, Barack's ambition initially tested their marriage. Things became particularly difficult after they became parents to Malia in 1998 and Sasha in 2001. While Michelle tried to balance motherhood with her own law career, Barack was chasing his political dreams. As a result, their relationship was pushed to the edge. Michelle told the newspaper, "This was sort of the eye-opener to me that marriage is hard." While Barack was quick to add they never spoke about divorce, he did admit to the New York Times, "I wouldn't gloss over the fact that was a tough time for us." Michelle ultimately decided to leave her career behind, as she candidly shared in her Netflix documentary, Becoming.
Something had to give, and it was my aspirations and dreams.
While she noted that Barack never asked her to quit her job, it was the only solution she could envision.
It felt like I can't do all of this, so I have to tone down my aspirations. I have to dial it back.
After years of debating the merits of marriage, Michelle and Barack tied the knot in 1992, but their arguments didn't end there.
It's like there were 10 years when I couldn't stand my husband.
The couple had just become parents, and Michelle began to resent Barack because while she was at home with the girls, he was able to pursue his career and even find time to go to the gym. She confessed, "For 10 years, while we're trying to build our careers and, worrying about school and who's doing what, I was like, ugh, this isn't even." Soon, Michelle was forced to face a harsh reality.
Marriage isn't 50-50. Ever. There are times I'm 70, he's 30. There are times he's 60-40.
Michelle also spoke about that notion on an episode of the Michelle Obama podcast, sharing how things will inevitably change in any union once kids arrive. As she put it, just the act of giving birth creates an inequality, because if your wife is breastfeeding, if she has a career, she's gonna have to make a different set of sacrifices than you do. As for how she and Barack made it through, Michelle said they simply refused to give up. She added, "You've got to know that there are going to be long periods of time when you can't stand each other."
The friendship that we established early on in our marriage, that carries you through tough times.
Michelle has spoken candidly about the fact that her union isn't perfect. In addition to a difficult first decade of marriage, she revealed in her memoir that she and Barack actually had to learn how to argue in a healthier way because their communication styles were so different. She wrote, "I tend to yell when I'm angry. When something sets me off, the feeling can be intensely physical, a kind of fireball running up my spine and exploding in the moment." As for Barack, he kept his cool. But while Michelle quickly moved on, he remained affected. She shared during a 2020 episode of the Michelle Obama podcast, "I hit fast and hard and then I forget. I had to learn that he feels things much more deeply for over a longer period of time." That was particularly evident following an argument they had while still engaged. As Michelle recalled, they were driving and fighting. Eventually, things became so heated that Michelle took off her ring and threw it. She recalled on the podcast, I said, forget this, who needs this? I wasn't really throwing it out. I threw it where I knew it would go. Even so, that cut deep, and Barack still remembers her exact words to this day. According to Michelle, that's when she realized you have to learn how to communicate in a way that the other person is actually going to hear it, not just in a way that's going to ease you of your feelings. Barack Obama achieved the ultimate career goal when he won the presidency, but that accomplishment wasn't without its downsides. Notably, the 8 years he and his family spent in the White House put a very real strain on his marriage. As he revealed in his 2020 memoir, A Promised Land, Michelle wasn't thrilled with his plans from the get-go. When he first told her he wanted to run, she stormed out of the room. But not before asking, God, Barack, when is it going to be enough? Once he was in office, things didn't get any easier. Speaking with People in 2020, the former president acknowledged the hardships Michelle faced as the eyes of the world were now on her. He recalled the pressure, stress of needing to get everything right, to be on at every moment. What's more, she had to raise 2 young girls in the same environment, all while she had lost her partner in a way. He told People, there were times where I think she was frustrated or sad or angry, but knew that I had Afghanistan or the financial crisis to worry about, so she would tamp it down. Their routines were upended, and ultimately, he was frustrated too. He told the New York Times in 2009, the notion that I just couldn't take my wife out on a date without it being a political issue was not something I was happy with. Barack and Michelle have spoken openly about their marital ups and downs, and they even sought out professional help along the way. In her memoir, Michelle wrote how they saw a marriage counselor several times, even though Barack was reluctant. She wrote, sitting down in front of a stranger struck him as uncomfortable, if not a tad dramatic. Even so, it ended up making their partnership stronger. For one, they addressed their communication.
Marriage counseling for us was one of those ways where we learned how to talk out our differences.
That was important because sometimes their arguments weren't always healthy. Michelle admitted on her podcast, sometimes we can feel ourselves just lawyering ourselves to death. We both like to win. What's more, counseling gave Michelle the tools she needed to speak up for herself and create new, healthier routines. She wrote in her book, I installed new boundaries, ones that worked better for me and the girls. She also noted how, for example, they no longer waited for Barack to finish his presidential duties in order to have dinner. Michelle wrote in Becoming, we made our schedule and stuck to it. She also started prioritizing herself, as she told Good Morning America.
What I learned about myself was my happiness was up to me.
Barack and Michelle's secret to a long-lasting marriage is simple. Don't give up. As Michelle told Revolt TV, she thinks young couples are too quick to call it quits. She mused, we don't talk about how much work is required and how hard it is, even when you are madly in love with a person. She also underscored that fact on a 2020 episode of the Michelle Obama podcast, noting how too many people give up too soon because they think disagreements mean their union is broken or unhealthy. As she phrased it, if that breaks a marriage, then Barack and I have been broken off and on throughout our marriage. As for her marriage with Barack, the end of the presidency marked a turn for the better. Barack told CBS Mornings in 2023, it sure helps to be out of the White House and to have a little more time with her. The former president also admitted that he wasn't fully in tune with Michelle's sacrifices during his time in office, adding, I did not fully appreciate the degree of stress and tension for her. Similarly, he previously told People in 2020, it was like a big exhale right after we left office. Noting that Michelle was able to get back to her more relaxed, joyous self once his 2 terms were up, he added, that allowed us to just enjoy the deep love that comes with a marriage this long, but also to be friends again.